Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Titans. And boy, oh boy, are we getting closer and closer and closer to preseason football. I can't wait. We're only about August 12th. So about 10 days away from the actual preseason beginning for our Tennessee Titans. And I'll tell you what, folks, when you look at this preseason, take everything with a grain of salt. I know right now, and even though I said earlier on the last show that I thought Will Levis would beat out Malik Willis, it's right now practice. Will Levis is looking terrific. I mean, terrific with a capital T. But it's practice. It's only practice. We got to wait till August 12th when we see Will Levis on the field and Malik Willis on the field actually going against another team and seeing how they are doing, how they're competing, and how they are faring as far as how they play. But, we knew Will Levis was good. I've said Will Levis was good. But at the end of the day, we got about those, 10 days. Let's enjoy the practices. Let's pray nobody gets hurt. But, right now, what we should be really focusing on is Ryan Tannehill. And, I want to take some of these media guys and just get a couple of minutes in a room alone with them to tell them what I really think and take it from there. Because you got these different reporters, folks, saying Ryan Tannehill this, Ryan Tannehill that. Ryan Tannehill is not a great quarterback. This and that and that. I'm going to tell you something. Those reporters that are reporting this don't know crap about football. They don't know crap about football. All they know how to do is try to ridicule a player, make a player look bad, and try to make a story that highlights them and makes them look good and maybe get some points here and there as far as being a reporter. But these reporters don't know anything. They never put on a uniform. They never put on pads. At the end of the day, don't listen to what they say. I mean, how can these reporters say Ryan Tannehill is done? He's finished. He's not a great quarterback. I look at Ryan Tannehill over the years, and we've once again talked about this, but they're saying he's no benefit to this Tennessee Titans team. How ludicrous, crazy, stupid comments are those by these guys, whether it's from The Athletic, who's trying to make money, obviously, because they charge for subscriptions when people like I do not. At the end of the day, they are so wrong. Let's look at 2021 when Ryan Tannehill actually had a receiver named A.J. Brown with him. He had a tremendous year. He had 7 rushing touchdowns that year, over 3,700 yards passing, 67.2% completion rate, 21 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. And that was with him being sacked, folks. Listen to me. He was sacked 47 times that year. He didn't have an offensive line, and he was still competing. See, these reporters don't realize that these other teams have offensive lines, don't have necessarily the issues that Ryan Tannehill is facing. Now, I'm not sticking up for him. I'm giving you the facts that Ryan Tannehill is a good quarterback. Now, last year he got hurt. But remember something. He didn't have a receiver or an offensive line. Who was the receiver? Traylon Burks only played 11 games. What did Traylon Burks, if I have it over here, I think he maybe had 33 receptions in 11 games. Robert Woods, believe it or not, the man that was cut, led this team in receptions with 53. So here's a guy that played in I believe Tannehill played in 12 games last year before getting hurt. I went ahead and forecasted out, based on what he did in those 12 games, what he would have finished 2022 with without an offensive line and without a receiver. He would have finished, he would have had 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 3,600 yards, and he would have still been sacked 47 times. So for those people that say Ryan Tannehill isn't good, he's doing this running around like a chicken with his head cut off and nobody to throw the ball to. All he has, and I say all we have loosely, is Derrick Henry, who is a running machine. So for all you people out there that don't think Ryan Tannehill is beneficial to this Tennessee Titans team, you don't know football. You do not know football. You shouldn't even be talking about football because it just shows how much you don't know when you make silly, ludicrous, stupid comments like that. Ryan Tannehill needs weapons in order to be successful. What quarterback is successful without weapons? This year is going to be a great test for Ryan Tannehill. I'm going to tell you why. Let's start first with, obviously, we know DeAndre Hopkins, but already in camp, you can see the relationship that Hopkins is creating with Burks. And these two guys are going to be an unbelievable duo. What does that mean for Ryan Tannehill? He has someone to throw the ball to. Not just someone, not just some two, but add Kyle Phillips, some three, and Quanko, the tight end, as another receiver. So now, not in the pass option, he actually has an option. Hey, that's why it's called pass option, not just pass. So this is going to be a season where he gets to show, and he will show the nation why he is here in Tennessee. Now, we talked about this offensive line. Very, very big situation. But you see, I broke it down, folks, and a lot of us, may not realize what I'm about to tell you. They went from having a okay, and I say okay loosely too, because it wasn't a good offensive line. They haven't had a good offensive line, who knows when. But they've always had the pass rushing, the rush blocking part of it, and never really were good with the pass blocking. That's why Tannehill was running all over the place with his chicken with his head cut off. But you have an unbelievable back in Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was gaining those yards that he gained 2 years ago, 2,000 yards without an offensive line. He can do the same if you put together a more predominant pass blocking offensive line. And I think that's what they're working on doing. When you look at Andre Dillard, okay, he is going to play left tackle most likely. He is predominantly a pass blocker. But he's a lot better at that than rush blocking. That's not going to affect Henry that much. Henry is good. Then you got Skoronski, who's actually all around very, very good, has a lot to learn. He's a rookie, but he's also very strong pass blocking. Then you look at Aaron Brewer, which they move around. He is the big question mark for me. They moved him, I believe, from guard or tackle into the center position. How he fares there is a big question. It's a big question. Is he going to be the guy to go ahead and play there? By default, he may be, because they don't have really another center. Or could they maybe get somebody that gets cut towards the end of camps? We'll have to find out. But then I look at if I look at the right guard position, I had to pick today, you got to go with Daniel Brunskill. I mean, here's a guy, once again, predominant pass blocking. Are you getting the point? Are you getting my point here? Then you move over to right tackle. They just signed Chris Hubbard instead of George Fant. I really thought they were going to sign George Fant. I'm not sure what happened there, but Chris Hubbard was signed, okay? And Chris Hubbard, if you ever watched him play, he actually can play either guard or tackle. He's actually played, I believe, third-string tight end for some teams as well. But he is also, come on, can you say it, folks? A pass blocker. But he's going to have a tough time winning this job because I really like Jalen Duncan. Now, I don't know how Duncan's going to do during this camp. Camp has just started once again. We won't know until we see them play. But it could be a good battle right there between Hubbard and Duncan, who are both very strong pass blockers that are playing for Nicholas Petit-Frere, why he is suspended 6 games. But even when Petit-Frere comes back, guess what Petit-Frere does? It's not pass blocking. It's more rush blocking. So a lot could depend on the job either Hubbard or Duncan does during their opportunity in the first 6 games to see if Petit-Frere is going to get his opportunity, come back and play. You got to remember something, folks. He's having 6 games off. He's not going to be in football shape. So it's going to take him a couple games to come back. You're talking game 8. I'd like to see, but I'm telling you what, you're going to see 2 things this year. I would not be surprised if Derrick Henry rushes for over 1,600 yards or more this year. He did the same thing with A.J. Brown, remember, back when that was the last decent receiver he had. And he did pretty darn good. Okay, and then I won't be surprised if Ryan Tannehill throws for 4,000 yards, somewhere 25 touchdowns, if not more, and not even half of that amount in interceptions. Folks, don't listen to the media. Do not listen to the media. They are not playing the game. They're just, once again, they are looking for stories. But it's going to be exciting. I mean, we got the defense, and it's hard. It's hard sometimes to come on and talk about things during preseason because, I don't care about practice. It doesn't really tell you the full scope of how things are going. Like I said earlier, we just hope throughout training camp, nobody gets hurt, and we have to make the decision based on skill and competitiveness rather than an injury on who plays. Now, folks, we still have an exciting show for you. We have 2 unbelievable interviews for you today. This year, if you haven't heard, we're bringing back the Houston Oilers. 2 games, I think, the uniforms. 1 versus Houston, slap them in the face. I love it. And, it brought up the idea that maybe some of the interviews we should do, should we be with former Houston Oiler players? Well, today, folks, we have 2 of those players, and it's going to be incredible. We're going to have first Richard R.J. Johnson, who was a former cornerback for the Houston Oilers for 8 years. Then we're going to follow that interview with a lot of you folks could remember former Houston Oiler from 1980 to 1984. He was a wide receiver and a kick returner. Carl Roaches will also be on our show today. So a great show. Love to get your feedback, folks. Always leave some comments in the comment sections. Yes, if you're listening to this recorded, I should say, we'll still get to your comments, hopefully, on the next show through text message. But, let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what you think of the interviews. And as always, folks, please share this if you have a Twitter account, YouTube account, Facebook account, Twitch account, Instagram account, you name it, share it to your friends. There's a reason why we're becoming the #1 Tennessee Titans show on the air, and it's because you, the fans, are making this happen. Enjoy these interviews. When we come back, we'll have the great Richard R.J. Johnson joining us. Let's go ahead. Let's take a break.
13 Daggers Tattoo Studio is looking for a new tattoo artist. Must be established with a strong portfolio and good work ethic. Stop by today at 13 Daggers across from Patriot Park on Fort Campbell Boulevard. Clarksville's ultimate tattoo studio. Tattoos, touch-ups, and consultations. See the artist's work online at 13daggerstattoo.com and get the custom experience you want with killer ink. Book today and get pricked by a pro. 13 Daggers Tattoo Studio. Rockin' hard on the boulevard.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder that every Friday you can go ahead and watch Frankly Speaking Baseball on All Tobacco Road Sports Radio and Frankly Speaking Sports outlets. You get the latest news, reports, analysts on all the action and news going on in Major League Baseball. That is Fridays every Friday, 5 p.m. on those networks. Also, if you're in the Carolina area, on WWBG 1470 AM, and we are also on WTOB 980 AM, 96.7 FM. Next guest, I'll tell you what, it is a great thing what the Tennessee Titans are doing this year, unveiling the uniforms twice this year to remember the Houston Oilers, where it all began. And I'll tell you what, our next contestant, our next guest, I'll tell you what, is tremendous. I'm sure he knows that song. He probably knows all the words to it by now. But let's welcome in former Houston Oiler, former Houston Oiler seasons for him from 1985 to 1992. Let's welcome in RJ Richard Johnson. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on. Sorry about the technical difficulties we had earlier. But Richard, let me ask you this straight up. Training camps are in full swing right now. And when you were back playing, what was training camp like for you? And what are the things as a player, as a cornerback, that you wanted to accomplish while you were in camp before the season began? Obviously, you didn't want to get hurt. We know that was number one. But besides that, what were the things you looking to accomplish during camp?
Besides getting hurt, as you mentioned, that was number one. The next thing we wanted to do was get healthy. Get healthy and get in shape. You wanted to get in shape. That was the number one thing. And last of all, you wanted to develop. You wanted to get better at your craft. You wanted to be a better player.
Now, what were the things about training camp, especially as you became a veteran, that you did not like about camp?
Well, I think what I didn't like was all the tour days. We went right into tour days. We went tour days back to back to back. And I think it was really rough on the body in terms of recovery. And I think now they do a better job of it. I think right now is the most important thing is taking care of your body and stop wearing you out. I think they wore back in the day, you got wore down very quick because there were some long, hard practices.
Yeah, there was certain teams, right, RJ, that actually did three-a-days, wasn't there?
Yeah, we were one of those teams. We did 3 a day. We worked real hard in that hot Texas sun, very hot.
Now, as you became a veteran, in your maybe fifth, sixth, seventh year, how did you change things during mini? Excuse me, I don't know. I must have got something in my throat there. How did you go about changing your ways of doing things during camp that might have been different when you first came on in 1985?
I think I went from just trying to survive the camp. The early years is mainly a survival thing because it was so hot and we were doing those 3 and 2 a days every day, and you were just trying to survive. Now, once you become a veteran, you understand what's happening. Your body's adjusting a little bit quicker. And so what you want to do is just get better at what you're doing, make sure you're familiar with all the defenses, and just work on your technique.
You played for 2 defensive style coaches, one being Jack Pardee, the other being, I call him, he was incredible. I don't know if you want to call him comedian or character, Jerry Glanville. Talk about the 2 coaches, what you liked about the coaches, maybe what you disliked about the coaches.
I mean, first of all, when you look at the 2 coaches, they're different styles. Jerry, like you said, Jerry was more of a animated coach. Coach Pardee was definitely about strictly business. Pardee, there's no joking around, no side, no leaving tickets for anyone. But the difference is that Jerry went about it in a, how do I say this in a just a more relaxed way. He was leaving tickets, and I think the team got a little relaxed. At times, we got a little too relaxed, considering the talent that we had. But with Pardee, it was always nickel and dime. It was definitely always bread and butter. We were definitely doing things the right way and doing things in an orderly fashion with Pardee.
And talk about, I mean, 1980, I think it was 89, because I was in Houston then, and you started 16 games, I believe, and you had, I think it was probably your career year. You had 8 interceptions that year. Talk about, I mean, first of all, let's talk about you before we start about how great that defense was in general. But what was it that was different about you in 1989 that was maybe different before?
I think when Pardee came in with a different system, and he came in and I was starting. That's what the biggest difference. I played every game. I started every game. That was the first year I ever started that year when Pardee came in, and that was the year I had all the interceptions. I think it was just a matter of getting on the field full time. I always knew I could play in the league, and I knew I could be successful. But the thing was getting on the field and playing. You know, Jerry and I had some differences here and there. So I think that kind of hindered me playing early on. Once Pardee came in, they saw the talent that was there and what I could do. And they went on, and I ended up starting me, and that's when I ended up having a pretty good year.
You know, not only do you get interceptions during the year, but talk about how great it is to also get an interception in the playoffs. You got a couple of them in the playoffs, but just in general.
Yeah. Playoffs. It's a totally different ball game. That's when adrenaline runs up a little bit. Is win or go home. And when you make big plays in a playoff game, those are very important because you allow the offense another opportunity to score. So it's nice getting them in the regular season, but in the playoffs, they're always important when you get a chance to give your offense another chance to score in the playoffs.
Hey, RJ, do you remember your touchdown?
I think that was against, Cincinnati, Boomer Esiason. Yeah, I remember that in the dome.
That's right. That's right. What is it like? I mean, it's how fulfilling, because you don't get the opportunity that much to score touchdowns. Is it to be able to do that?
That's a defensive back dream to score a touchdown, man. We always dream about scoring touchdowns. And like Chris, Bubba, and I, we used to always say, okay, when we score, this is the dance we're going to do once we score. Because we never score. We always see Ernest doing his little dance all the time. But it was so exciting to score, I forgot the dance. I just went around and put the ball in the air. Forgot the total dance. Didn't dance at all. But it was
that's right. You were already on cloud nine. You didn't.
Yeah, I missed the dance though. I didn't do my dance.
Talk about that defense, RJ. Incredible. I know just from remembering, you had Ray Childress on that team. I believe William Fuller, if I'm correct. And then it might have been late in the 80s during the middle of your time, your career, that I think they picked up Sean Jones from the Raiders as well. And that defense just went crazy. Talk about, everyone remembers, of course, the offense and how powerful that was. But you had a damn good defense, too.
Yes, we did have a good defense. And when you play behind the run and shoot, you have to have a great defense, because run and shoot, if it's not on, there are going to be 3 plays in 3 seconds, and they're off the field and you're back on. So you got to be rested and ready to go at all times. You got to be alert on that run and shoot. But as you said, we had Ray, Big Doug was in the middle with us. Sean was there. We had a great defense. Al Smith, Lamar Lathan came later. We had a good defensive team, and it was really hard to play. I don't think a lot of people understand. It's really hard to play behind a run and shoot offense, because there's no tight end and there's no lot of long drives. Those drives are quick and fast and over. You're back on the field.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you didn't have much time on the sidelines because, look at it. You had 2,000-yard receivers in Ernest Gibbons and Drew Hill, potential. And then people don't remember later on in your career, Hayward Jeffries, a tight end, came in who was 1,000 yards receiver as a tight end in the league. And back then, that was incredible. But I want to talk about who I believe to be one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, Warren Moon. Talk about Warren Moon and what he meant to that Houston Oilers team.
Well, Warren Moon he was not only a great player, Warren was a great leader. Warren was a good guy. He did things the right way. He always pretty even keel. We never seen Warren get very, very upset. He was just a great guy to follow. And he was, more than that, he was a great man. Warren was a great guy to be around off the field as well. Great guy. We learned a lot from Warren. You learned leadership. You learned how to stay within your game. And Warren was always even keel. He always used to get on defense sometimes because we'd go a little bit left on defense. We were aggressive. And he'd always come over and say, calm down, for a while. Stop making penalties because, we had a lot of penalties back in the day. But he was a good leader, man. He was somebody come in there and really keep the guys on the even keel.
I don't think people or kids today realize how different the game was back then. I tell people, you breathe on a player nowadays, you get a penalty. It was a completely different game. Talk about how much more physical of a game it was back in the late 80s and early 90s when you played.
Oh, that was definitely a more physical game. It was one of them games where you run into people, you knock yourself out, get a little dizzy, and they'll tell you sit down for a play or two, and they'll put you right back in there. You had to get right back in there. Dizzy-headed, but we hit. And especially on the Glanville, we were a real aggressive defense. I mean, if there was a guy barely on his knee hanging in, you were supposed to go in there and get a piece. We had practice putting 10 hats, 11 hats on a guy, so everyone's flying around. And we definitely gave a few hard hits, and we took a few as well. But it was a definite physical game.
Yeah, and that was a defense that you had that swarmed to the ball. So it wasn't like just one guy. It was team defense back then.
Yes, sir. And everybody, when we're watching film, everybody's got to be seeing going to the ball. There was no walking around looking there. No, you had to be in the ball or you wouldn't play. You had to get in there, mix it up.
Ajay, who was the one player that you wanted to match up against, to defend against on another team?
The one player, the one wide receiver was the guy. It was Webster Slaughter at Cleveland. Webster was a tough guy, hard guy to defend. He was a good matchup. You always want to go in there and fight with Webster. Great guy to defend. Webster Slaughter, I would say, was definitely number one. Eddie Brown, who came out with me, he was another guy at Cleveland. At Cincinnati back then, Eddie Brown was a good guy to go up against.
Those were some good receivers, too. Hey, talk about the fulfillment of winning the division. I think it was Jack Pardee who was coaching you then. 1991, you had 11-5 season. I mean, how great was it to see all that hard work? I mean, you didn't win the Super Bowl that year, but to put all that hard work in, go 11-5, and to win the division.
That was great. He came in under Pardee. We always knew we've always had a talented team. We had a bunch of first-round draft pick, and I would say we were definitely some underachievers. We finally won that division that year, and we were on our way. It should have been a year where we went to the Super Bowl. I always tell guys, if we hadn't had to go through Buffalo and the cold, I think we'd have definitely been to several Super Bowls.
Yeah, no doubt about that. A lot of people don't know what it was like to play in the Astrodome, especially on a Monday night, which I've been there on a Monday night. You played on a couple of – talk about playing in the Astrodome and that home crowd, because I tell people it was – Houston's a town where the high schools back then were getting more bigger crowds than some of the other NFL teams. Talk about Houston as a whole, playing in the Astrodome and football in Houston in general.
It was great playing in the Astrodome. The thing about playing in the Astrodome with the cover on it, it made it seem like it was so small and intense. It was like the fans are right on there with you and they're rooting for you. It's just that extra adrenaline that you get from that 12th man. We definitely had a 12th man in the Astrodome. Then we named it the House of Pain. And that really got things very exciting. We love playing at home. I think we could have beat anyone at home.
Yeah, you sure could have. Now talk about, I would say maybe 5 years after you retired and stopped playing, Houston Oilers moved to Tennessee. When you first heard about the Oilers moving to Tennessee, what was your thoughts?
Well, I thought, how could they leave a great football city, a great football state as Texas, And when they first went to Tennessee, I was like, "Ooh, that's going to be a big mistake." But evidently, they had some business decisions that Mr. Adams had to make, and they got out of there. But I really felt that if the Oilers moved to Tennessee, they would definitely get another team. I didn't anticipate that they would take the name with it.
Now, do you still follow the Titans or the former Houston Oilers team?
Yes, I do, because there's certain events that we had, like last year. We still do the reunion there. As a matter of fact, we're doing a reunion this year. I think on one of the throwback days, we're going up there.
Yeah, and that raises my next question. One of the last questions we have for you is this year. First of all, this year they're unveiling uniforms, I think twice, which has to be great feeling for you. But talk about how the Titans have kept the Houston Oilers name involved in their success as well. You see them like last year you mentioned. They do something for all the former players. You don't see that everywhere. Talk about how special for a former player it is to be able to come back year after year, have these reunions, and then see the team go ahead and wear the old Houston Oilers uniforms.
I think it's great. The first, Miss Adams first had a reunion for the Oilers in Houston. And then we did it the last 2 years we've been in Tennessee. She brought everyone down to Tennessee. She brought the Oilers down there, and we were on the field and everything. That was really great for her to continue to bring us in. Because, in Houston, we love Houston, but the Texans, I don't think they've embraced the Oilers, and maybe rightly so, as well as they should, because of it being still owned by the Tennessee. But when we got down there, it's been first class. Miss Adams has definitely made us feel part of the family with the Titans and everything. So, and we're looking forward to going back down there this year. I think we're going down for the Atlanta, one of the throwback games. I think it's the Atlanta game this year. We're going to go down.
Right. That'll be awesome. Yeah. Now, before I let you run, I got to ask you this. Tennessee Titans this year, they just went out, picked up DeAndre Hopkins. How do you think this team fares? Are they looking okay to win the division this year?
Well, I think they can win the division. They're looking good if they can keep the quarterback healthy, get great quarterback play. And I don't know what the situation with the big guy. If they can keep running that guy, I think they'll go far.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, I took enough of your time. I want to thank you so very, very much taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on Frankly Speaking Titans today.
All right. Thank you for having me, my man. Anytime.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Anytime. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the great R.J. Richard Johnson, former Houston Oilers quarterback from 1985 to 1992. Let's go ahead. Let's take a break, and we'll be back right after these messages.
13 Daggers Tattoo Studio is looking for a new tattoo artist. Must be established with a strong portfolio and good work ethic. Stop by today at 13 Daggers across from Patriot Park on Fort Campbell Boulevard. Clarksville's ultimate tattoo studio. Tattoos, touch-ups, and consultations. See the artist's work online at 13daggerstattoo.com and get the custom experience you want with killer ink. Book today and get pricked by a pro. 13 Daggers Tattoo Studio. Looking hard on the boulevard.
Oh, baby, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Titans here on all different Frankly Speaking sports outlets. We are streaming now on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, you name it, LinkedIn. And more and more and more. Make sure to tune in. If you have some friends who are Titans fans, make sure you go ahead and share this to them as well. Ladies and gentlemen, what an interview we had right there with R.J. Richard Johnson, and we have another one for you. This was actually done roughly a little less than a year ago with the great Carl Roaches, I should say, wide receiver kick return of the Houston Oilers from 80 to 84. Let's go ahead and let's listen to that interview in its entirety. Have an interview that is going to be just one amazing interview, and it is a great honor, thrill, and pleasure to now introduce to you a former Houston Oilers Saints wide receiver kick returner from 1980 to 1985, He made the Pro Bowl in 1981 with the Houston Oilers. Let's welcome in Carl Roaches. Carl, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine, Larry. I'm doing fine. I'm glad to be. I'm honored to be on your show.
And we're honored to have you, Carl. Let me ask you, the first question that pops to my mind, 1976. I believe it was 1976. You drafted not till late, the 14th round, but you drafted by an expansion team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Talk about the thoughts in your head when you were finally drafted and it was for an expansion team that had never played a game yet in the NFL.
Well, that was a very shocking and surprising deal to go in the 14th round, first pick to Tampa Bay. And I didn't believe the guys at first when they came over to tell me that I need to go over to the coach's office and call Tampa Bay. They just drafted me. And, I said, you joking? They said, no, for real, you need to get over there. So I went over there and I called and I found out it was true. And I was drafted the first pick in the 14th round, to the expansion team.
Now, let me ask you this, Carl. You go ahead, unfortunately, you don't make the team. The next time you're playing football in an NFL team is 1980 with the Houston Oilers. Take us through the path you took from the time you were let go by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers until you actually made it the team with the Houston Oilers.
Okay, like I say, I was drafted by Tampa Bay in '76, and I was the last person released by Tampa in training after the last preseason game, and it was very shocking to me. But I was rather biased. I felt like they kept a couple of players because of the fact that John McKay Jr., McKay's son, and then Tampa Bay kept another guy, Lee McGriff, from Tampa University, which I felt like they was using him for us trying to draw a crowd because they didn't know anything about the Southwest Conference, except for the fact that they had great teams, but the fans didn't know anything about them. So they kept most of the players that up and down that East Coast and over in that area because they was trying to make sure that I guess fill the stadium. So after that point, I left and I went to Canada. I played a year up at Saskatchewan Roughriders, and it wasn't exactly what I enjoyed much because of the fact that it was away from home. And I come from a large family, and my family could not see me play. And so I went back to A&M, got my degree, and I went to work for Arco Chemicals in Challengeview outside of Houston. And at that point, Billy White Shoes Johnson, a great guy, he got hurt and had his second knee surgery. So I went over to the Oilers, and I had a coach from college that was coaching, John Paul Young. And I asked him about who do I need to speak with as far as trying to get a try. And I hadn't played football in 2 years. I hadn't tried out for nobody in 2 years. But I was still had my God-gifted speed. I was 4'3". I was dripping wet, 168 pounds. And they listed me at 5'8", but I was really 5'7". And so I got an opportunity to go to training camp. And from there, I was able to make the team. And I was a 27-year-old rookie in the NFL. And my second year, I was able to make it to the Pro Bowl as a 28-year-old. So I accomplished a lot, so I'm very satisfied with my career.
You mentioned Billy White Shoes Johnson. I loved watching Billy White Shoes Johnson growing up. How much did you learn? I know he was hurt. You went over there, but how much of a help was he to you learning more about returning kicks?
Well, Billy told me, use your instinct. You can draw up a play the way it's supposed to go, but you being a little guy, sort of like me, much smaller, but like me, he say, do what you do best. Run to survive, run from north to south, the best you can get to the end zone the other way. And he say, don't worry about how they draw it up. That just be yourself and use your speed and your agility to do what you got, best. And that's what I did. I took his advice. He was there. my rookie year, they only played him as a receiver, and I was mainly kick returner. And I took what he told me and tried to do the best to my ability to get where I got.
And you know what? You did it well. Of course, you learned from one of the best, like you said. But talk about the one play. I still remember it. I believe it was September 29th, 1980, your rookie year, I believe it was, versus the Bengals. I think you got a punt on the 12-yard line and ran it back 68 yards to help your team get a field goal and win the game. Do you remember that play?
I sort of remember that play, but I played football for the fans. My instinct was I was an entertainer. Every time I touched the ball, I tried to make everybody stand on their feet because they paid to come see us play. And that's the way I took it. I did that ever since high school. Coming from a large family, it was 14 of us. I was the 8th kid, and I was the runner, the little. All my other brothers, they played guards and tackle. And that's what I installed in myself. What I did this week didn't matter. I had to do it something different every week in order to stay on the team. And that's the way I played, to entertain the fans because they're the one that pays the money to come see you play.
Carl, talk about that 1980 team. You went 11-5. Obviously, you make the playoffs. Talk about that season and how special was that team that you played for?
The 80 team you're talking about?
Yeah.
It was real special, because I got a chance to play with some great guys, Kenny Stabler, Earl Campbell, Robert Brazile, Elvin Bethea, all these his NFL Hall of Famers, and I was able to play with these guys and people that I grew up watching and seeing, for years. And then I was able to come and get into the NFL after not playing for 2 years. I didn't know how long my career would be. I just wanted to play 1 year just to say I made it, because everybody always wanted to tell me, you're too small. And the only thing I could tell them, well, hey, dynamite come in small packages. I'm just ready to explode. And they laughed about it, but I was telling them the truth that that's what I was,
Yeah.
So
Carl, were you surprised after the 1980 season when the Oilers got rid of Bum Phillips after going 11-5?
Well, I was surprised, but NFL at that time is strictly a business. I came in not playing in 2 years. I was working at Arco, making around $24,000 a year as a process operator in a chemical plant. And then I had to quit in order to try for Oilers, and they first offered me the minimum, $18,000. I turned it down. I told them I'm making 24 already, so why I'm gonna take a cut to try out somewhere? If I don't make it, then I got to try to find a job to get back because I'd had to quit my job in order to go to the Oilers because they could not give me a leave of absence because I was applying for another job. If I was going to the service or going back to school, they could give me a leave of absence, but I was going to apply for another job, so they couldn't give me a leave of absence. So that was a hard situation that I went through, deciding on whether I should try it again. But in my mind, I grew up with a lot of guys in my neighborhood that played professional football. Greg Pruitt with the Cleveland Browns, Robert Jackson with the Cleveland Browns, #1 draft choice. Me and him went to A&M together and also graduated high school together. Melvin Baker, who played for Miami for a while. Terry Phillips played in the NFL. Roy Dewalt, who took over Canadian quarterback BC Lions and took them to Grey Cups after Moon left. So in my neighborhood, it was just full of athletes. Jolly, who played for the Green Bay Packers. We all grew up in this neighborhood that was only a half mile wide and a mile long. And all these athletes come from that one area. So I was blessed to join that era, legacy of athletes. And I don't know, people said it must have been something in the water. I don't know.
Right. Now, you mentioned the Pro Bowl. 1981, you named to the Pro Bowl. Now, here's a guy you beat your that was out of football for 4 years, comes back at 28 years old, you make the Pro Bowl. Talk about how fulfilling that was to be named to the Pro Bowl.
Well, that was the highlight of my life. I still sometimes pinch myself today and say, did I really play did I make the Pro Bowl? There I was from the Houston Oilers, chosen along with Earl Campbell, Robert Brazile, who are all NFL Hall of Famers, and Leon Gray, and that was little me. We took pictures. They had me sometimes stand on a crate to look tall. I played beside Chris Collinsworth in the Pro Bowl. So I was, it was a shock and a feeling that I felt like I was dreaming. Because there I was, hadn't played in football in 2 years, never played in the NFL. And the only downfall about it was that when I did sign with the Oilers, I couldn't sign for no bonuses or nothing. I went to the Pro Bowl, I didn't get anything. I led the AFC, I didn't get nothing. I led the whole NFL, I didn't get nothing. Every touchdown I made, I didn't get nothing because it wasn't in my contract. But it didn't bother me because the thing about it, you never miss something you never had. And being my size and being able to make it in the NFL, I feel like I made $1 million right there. So other than that, I'm just blessed. Going into my third year, I had just signed my contract for 3 years, and that was only 35,000, 38,000, 41. And then before the season started, they had a strike. And I lost half the season because of the fact that that salary I would have made dropped me down almost 16, 17,000 a year. So I struggled trying to work during the off season in order just to keep from losing everything I just had. My son was born the week before I went to the Pro Bowl. I just bought a home in '82, and I wasn't had no income coming in, and I just thought I was going to lose everything, because I didn't have anything else. 'Cause I didn't get no bonuses or nothing with all I did, But that was part of them. They say, how can you negotiate? Tell me what you worth, and you ain't played in 2 years. They told me take it or leave it, so I chose to take it. I didn't want to live the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I had a win. Well, now I know. I had a lot of kids in my neighborhood that great talent, and they chose not to do it. And later on, they say, I wonder what would have happened if I would have played. Well, I answered my own question on that.
Yeah, definitely you did. Talk about, you mentioned two players, and I want to know what it was like watching them on different sides of the ball. You mentioned Earl Campbell, who was one of my favorite running backs of all time. And then you mentioned Robert Brazile, another great. Talk about how great these two athletes were.
Well, they was great. I played against Earl in college. I went to Texas A&M.
Right.
And Earl was at Texas, and he was under me, though, a couple of years. But I played 2 years against him. And first year, he just wore us out. And then his sophomore year, my senior, we defeated them first time in a long time. A&M beat Texas because we played every year on Thanksgiving. But Earl and Robert, they super guys. Earl, he just a downright country boy, and he didn't mind letting you know. He get on stage with Willie Nelson doing different functions when they had Willie Nelson come to Houston, and Rob Brazile, he had great leadership, and he helped build my confidence along with the other teammates because of the fact that when I came into the NFL, I socialized with a lot of veterans, mainly because of my age group. I didn't hang around with the rookies, and same way with Ken Stabler, he helped me a lot. I was there when they traded Pastorini to Oregon and got him.
Right.
I played with Ken Stabler, and he was one of the nicest, sweetest guys you ever want to meet. He would tell me, hey, you can be just as good as Cliff Branch, you know. So that made me feel good. That made me fight more to try to make the team because I got the confidence from a legend that I've seen play. Never thought I would ever play with him. That's gone, you know, get the information that he gave me to help me keep my talent up to par in order to play in the NFL.
You know, they talk about defense winning championships, this and that. But for those fans that are listening, I'd have to say that a very close second has to be special teams. And there's many guys that have made a career out of playing just special teams. Talk about how special and how important special teams is to an NFL franchise.
Well, the special team is something that, like they say, special, you know, and you get out there and you can change the game in an instant. You know, I didn't like the fair catch punts and stuff. I took a lot of chances and it paid off more than times than I didn't make it. But that was my highlight of my life, you know, to play 6 years in the NFL, 5 years with the Houston Oilers. I started as a kick returner, and I worked out hard doing that. I had to work out twice as hard as other people to keep myself in shape. I played 5 years with the Oilers, and I never missed a game. You know, that's an NFL record. You know, 5 years, never missed a game, never was hurt. I'm still pretty much healthy now. I work every day construction now, you know. And people say, why do you still work? I say, well, you know, I didn't make the money they make, you know. So in order to keep what I got, I had to work. You know, I went through a divorce where part of my pension was gave to my first wife to keep from paying child support. So a lot of people think that because they see me every Sunday on TV that I was rich. You know, I said, man, what you do with all that $1 million you made? I said, well, it ain't much you can do with a million pennies, you know. And they think I was joking, but I was telling the truth, you know. I just enjoyed football, you know, because people always told me you're too small, you know. And I had to prove them wrong. And it all started back in high school when I was the state of Texas leading rush as a running back in Houston, rushed for over 2,100 yards, you know. And I was state of Texas 100-yard dash champ. You know, I was 9.4 sprinter. So God just put a bubble on and blessed me with God gift talent. You know, a lot of people say, well, how did you get that fast? I say, well, if you see these big guys running at you like that, you'll learn to pick up some speed.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Couple more questions. We'll let you run. You're talking about, you know, your years that you had. You know, after the Buccaneers, Carl, you said you worked 4 to 5 years in the chemical plant, everywhere you were working. Did you ever in your wildest dreams during those 4 to 5 years that you weren't playing football think that you would have a chance again to make it in the NFL?
Well, you know, it was really like 2 years that I didn't try out for anybody because in 77, I played in Canada.
Right,
you know?
That's right.
You know, I played up there. So, but the money wasn't right. When I changed the money back from Canadian dollar to American dollar, I didn't have anything. So I went back to A&M, got my degree, and I went to work for Arco Chemicals in Chandler. I thought it was over for me. You know, I didn't look, you know, nobody called me. I checked with teams. Nobody got back with me. And when Billy White had that knee surgery the second year in a row, and they wasn't looking for him to come back, and I knew he was a great kicker, and I know I was a good kicker because I made the Southwest Conference decade team of the 70s. You know, with Earl Campbell and them and a lot of other players, you know, that played in the NFL. So it was a hard decision to leave a job to go there, you know, that you already have a future in. But the best part about it, I did go back there and I got my degree. So I had something to fall back on if I didn't make it. And then that was the best thing that I looked at because I was the first kid to ever go to college. And the only reason why I went to college was because of my athletic ability, because I didn't prepare myself for college because we couldn't afford to go 8 kids, and I was the first one to ever attempt to go to college, and that was because of a scholarship and my athletic ability. So I promised my mom and dad that if I go to college, even if I don't make it in the NFL, I will get my degree, and that's why I went back and got my degree in '78, and then went to work for Arcor. I didn't plan to go back to play football, until that happened with Billy, and it gave me the opportunity to get a third chance. That's the way I looked at it. First chance at Tampa Bay, I didn't make it. I went to Canada. I didn't like it. That was strike 2, and I told my mom, I said, I'm gonna quit my job. I'm gonna try. I said, I got 2 strikes on me. I said, either I'm gonna strike out or hit a base, walk or get on base, hit a base hit. Well, I hit a grand slam because I ended up going to the Pro Bowl. So everything worked out great on that part.
Carl, when you look back on your career now, after all these years, 40-something years since you about 40 years since you played, what do you treasure most about your time in the NFL?
Well, what I treasured most in the NFL was being able to accomplish a dream that I wanted to have coming up. I watched a lot of great players coming up. I played with a lot of people. My brothers and them, they was bigger. They roughed me around. They made me tough. They told me how to do things, and I was able to take it to another level because of my speed. And the NFL just made everything even sweeter. And then what made it even better, I'm from Houston. I was born and raised in Houston, and I was able to play at home. So my family got a chance to see me. My siblings under me is still in high school and stuff like this here, and coming out where they come out. They came to see me when I was in college because I was A&M. But when I got there, they was able to come see me play in the Astrodome. And the Astrodome is where I had my first job coming up in high school and junior high. I started working in the Astrodome when I was in the 7th grade, and the man put me on hot dogs, and I got to selling hot dogs, and I took it to another level there too, because I used to tell the fans, they come up, they want hot dog. I tell them a hot diggity dog, hot dog. A loaf of bread, a pound of meat, all the mustard you can eat. Hot diggity dog, hot dog. While waiting in their line, you get mine right on time. But I never dreamed that I'd be playing in the Astrodome, And so Astrodome meant a lot to me, because I was raised up in it, baseball. Every baseball game back then, they played. I was a vendor, I walked up and down the aisles and sold peanuts and popcorn and hot dog, and then I turned around and was able to play in my hometown where my parents and family could see me play, and it made me work harder, to play so they could enjoy me and my ability right at home. I wasn't in Chicago, I wasn't in Miami or anywhere. I was right at home, so I didn't have to worry about picking up and moving and going back to play. I was right at home. So the expenses, the money I was making, it didn't matter because I didn't have a lot of expenses that other people had to do, fly their family in, do this here. So it just, God just blessed me with the talent to do what I did. And I enjoyed every minute of the NFL. I was glad to play. People say, well, why did you stop? I was 32 years old when I retired.
That's right.
That was my last year with the Saints, And they had just got a new coach. Baum had just quit. And me and Earl, we started, they was looking to rebuild. I'm not going to send my body through another training camp of torture, trying to make it when the coach is looking for a 21, 22-year-old young player to rebuild off of, So I chose to just go and stop it right there. I didn't want to go no further. I had my education, I had my degree, so I just enjoyed the moments that I did have, and had something to look back on, to pass on legacy to my kids, to show them, look what your dad did.
Yep, you sure do. And I've been in the Astrodome. I lived in Houston for a year. I went to Astro games, Oiler games, you name it. And I love going to the Astrodome. But listen, my friend, we're running out of time. I want to thank you so very, very much taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on Frankly Speaking Sports this evening.
Well, I appreciate it, Larry. And then you got to send me your address. I got to send you one of my 8x10 so you put on that wall behind you.
I would love it. I would love it. I'll definitely do that, Carl. I'd love to get it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time and thinking about me. Knock on wood, come October, I'll be 69, and I'm still kicking and in shape, and I don't have no injuries. My knees are fine. My hips are fine. A lot of my friends, they all got surgery and they're hurting. But God just put a bubble around me. And I appreciate it, Larry.
Yes, he did. All right. Thank you so much, and stay safe, Carl.
Yeah, you too.
That was the great Carl Roaches. Well, I'll tell you what, folks. Once again, time goes fast. Next week, we plan on going over definitely the first preseason game. That's right. It's going to be the following weekend of our show. So we'll come here. We'll do a little pregame. We'll tell you what we should expect, what to look for, and some key aspects of the game. Once again, want to thank everyone, every single person that is watching this show on all our different social media networks. Thank you so much for tuning in. And till next week, this is Larry Frank, Frankly Speaking.